Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. It's March 5th. I got the date right, 2022. And this is episode 78 of the Workshop podcast at yet another different time. I told you I would never guarantee those early morning, Saturday morning live streams. And I'm sure a lot of you are out working in the yard, whatever. It's a Saturday afternoon. I had to record the podcast. So I figured what better time than to do it now and do it live. And it's done when I'm done. And I hope you enjoy it. Today, we're going to talk about failure. Pick your cliche, failing forward, learning from your mistakes, whatever. But I'm going to share with you 5 of my most recent fails, quotation marks, whatever you want to call it, things I learned from, where I went, the whole works. But before we do that, let's get our quick announcements out of the way. Number 1, I keep plugging this, but it's because I love it. Come by and join the Telegram group. If you're wondering where the link is, it is in the description of whether you're watching the video or listening to the audio. Pull it up from there. Come by, join. If you've never used Telegram before, give yourself a chance. I love Telegram. It took me a little while to get used to it, but there's something about just this kind of ongoing drop in, drop out conversation with the community. I love it. So give it a chance, drop by and become part of the Telegram workshop community. Number 2, if you didn't notice yet, I released a quick little video the other day. I have a goal and I believe in making my goals public, at least my content creation goals for sure, because what does it do? It creates accountability, right? And one of my big, hairy, audacious goals, I believe that's a term I stole from Nicole Sauce, is to get Mike Rowe on my show. I figure I'm coming up on, well, I just passed 75 episodes, so it's probably a done deal. I'm at least going to, be around for a while doing this. I'm enjoying it. I'm seeing quite a bit of growth. And I thought, hey, what the hell? Let's get Mike on the show. So if anybody knows, or if anybody has a friend of a friend of a friend that can help out, just reach out. And if you're not sure, just share that video on social and tag it with hashtag DoMeDirtyMike. I figured I'd have to put something up there that would absolutely, grab his attention. And yeah, let's do it, guys. And number 3. So here we are. This is episode 78. So we are 22 episodes away from the century mark, 100 episodes. I'm kind of excited, but I'm also a bit at a loss of what to do. I was looking at it and I'd like to have it done before I go away to Nashville or to Tennessee, to the Living Free in Tennessee spring workshop, but I just don't know where to go with it. So if you guys have suggestions, if you're interested in maybe like each person putting together, I don't know, some kind of little audio clip or something, just give me some suggestions about what we should do for episode 100. I love milestone episodes. I want to celebrate it with you. So if there's something that you guys would like to do for an episode 100, message me on social, email me at therealtimcook@gmail.com, whatever you want, but just let me know. Okay. So today's episode is, I don't know even what to call it. I hate the word failure. But it was what it was. So 5 recent fails or failures that I've, done or been through in, say, the last 2-ish years, I would say. And this all kind of started from a conversation that I had with someone else in, the agorist, freedom-minded, liberty, anarchist, pick your term, whatever you want, community. And they almost seemed like they were apologetic for not having an entrepreneurial venture. And I had to tell them, I'm like, listen, here's the deal. I know I harp on being your own boss and I love it. And I think it's great for me. And I know that a lot of people in the anarchist kind of movement think that that is the key to freedom and independence. And it is, and it can be, it absolutely can be. So hang on to that. But it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And sometimes there's these ideas in our online communities and in our kind of groupthink ideas that we have to, homeschool our kids and we have to start our own business and we have to can our own food and whatever it happens to be. And you don't vote or whatever, right? So first off, take a breath and help yourself to realize that everybody's different, everybody's situation's different. And just because some people in certain movements or certain philosophical mindsets do certain things doesn't necessarily mean that you need to feel the pressure to do it. So I wanted to maybe tell you that. It's kind of a tangent, but I want you to kind of concentrate today on the fact that you need to do what you need to do. And sometimes that's trying some things and you're like, you know what? The reason I tried this was because, Jim Bob or Bill or Jimmy or whomever tried it or talks about it and said, this is great. And then you know what? I end up falling on my ass and failing. So I figured, hey, let's talk about some of the things that I've tried over the last couple of years that just didn't work for me. And hopefully, excuse me, because a lot of times people, they look at content creators, they look at podcasters, people who make videos, and they're like, oh, they got their shit all together. Must be nice. I hate that must be nice mindset. So I want you to, I want to share with you, hopefully I get a little candid and open about these things, but I want to share with you kind of exactly just some things that I screwed up, the things that didn't work for us, things we tried and we weren't happy with, things that we just failed miserably at, so that it's okay for you to fail too, because we're all in good company, right? And if I can be honest and open about it, then hopefully some of you guys can be honest and open with me or with other people, or maybe it'll just, you'll be like, okay, well, I want to try this, or maybe I'm not going to try it at all. But I just want to get out there and be like, all right, here's this verbal kick to the butt. I want to share with you and let you know, hey, Tim screws up a lot too. And, some of these you might be like, all right, these aren't really failures, Tim. But anyway, all right, it's enough rambling. Let's move in. So do you guys remember, I always love to quote this movie, but sometimes the thought of something or the concept of something is better, or in your mind, you make it seem like it's going to be a lot better than what actually happens in the real world. So, Clark W. Griswold, my favorite father figure from A Christmas Movie, he's having a conversation with his wife, and she's like, Clark, you always build things up in your mind to make them bigger than what they are. He's like, well, I just wanted to have a good old-fashioned family Christmas. I don't do that. When have I ever done it? And she's like, birthdays, Easters, and she goes on and on and on. Because, again, Clark, like a lot of us men, I think maybe, I don't know if it's necessarily just a male problem, but we blow things up in our brain. We're like, yeah, this is going to be a great idea. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, the reality of it, not so much. All right. So the first failure, and you may have heard this story before, and if you have, well, I hope you enjoy it. My wicking bed. So a couple of years ago, I'd heard many different creators stole the virtues of wicking beds and how great they were. And let me tell you, they are pretty cool. But my wife and I, we had two ideas. Well, she wanted raised garden beds. She wanted them up higher so we could work on them and enjoy them a little better. And I wanted wicking beds. So I decided, and let's put it this way, wicking beds, due to the nature of the amount of water, the amount of gravel, the amount of sand, the amount of soil that goes into them, they need to be really, really sturdy if you want to build them like a 4x8. What I did was I built it like a 4x8 table, about 3 feet off the ground. And then I built about an 18-inch bin that all the material could sit in. And you want to put some serious reinforcement in the bottom of that. Otherwise, it's not going to go well. And you want some really thick plastic inside those wicking beds. Otherwise, everything's going to leak. Well, I built them, and I backed my truck into the yard, and I was dumping soil and everything in. I got the rock in, I got the pipe in, I got some sand in there. Then I got just about the last bit of soil. And as I did, the bottom let go. And I thought, I'm supposed to be a handyman. I'm supposed to know how to do this kind of stuff. And Becky's out there talking to me, and she didn't say a word. She knew. She said, this is not going to be good. And, it would have been one thing if all it was the rock in there. But I had, rock and sand and soil all perfectly mixed. And it just dropped, and everything just kind of congealed into one big mess. So I stood there for a minute, took a breath, relaxed, and thought, geez, this really sucks. So I thought, well, where do I go from here? And I put it all together, and I'm like, oh, anyway. So I filled up the other bin. I reinforced the other bottom before I got going with it. And it was great. It worked. So, but I decided I was going to use plastic from the, like heavy duty vapor barrier plastic to line the bottom. And you really should buy like pond layer. Pond layer or pond liner is like the thickness of a tire inner tube or thicker. It's really thick. And if you know plastic for doing walls, it's thick, but not that thick. I said, I'll double it up. So I put it together. And as soon as I put it all together, I still had leaks. So first off, wicking beds above ground, off the ground, not necessarily ideal. I would have had to have completely rebuilt them. I spent a lot of time, a little bit of money on them. I invested some, I used some salvage material, but in the end, we ended up having a pretty good garden out of it. But come September, October, when we had to take everything out, I tore those boxes apart. I was not happy with them. And to be honest, did I learn from it? Yes. Did we do it again the next summer? No. Are we going to build some this year finally? Yes, but they're going to go on the ground and they're going to be totally different. I'm kind of excited. There was just so many mistakes and it was so stupid. I should have just been smart about it and built the bins on the ground. But for whatever reason, I had it in my stubborn ass old head that I wanted to build those above ground so they'd be easier to use. And, the bottom fell out on one, it leaked on the other. The one I reinforced, it still listed to the side a little bit. It was just absolutely miserable. So remember, even somebody who supposedly calls themselves a handyman can definitely screw up on construction, can definitely underestimate the weight of a truckload of gravel, of sand, water added. You know what? I will say though, that they are really successful. And we are going to do some more for the daycare this year. We're going to do some more for our backyard. But just remember that not every project goes the way you planned. And sometimes it's okay to give up on them. Or like we did, we didn't grow anything last year. We just let it sit. And I'll tell you a story about another failure I had when it came to growing things. So number 2, I got a call one day from a guy. I look after his property. It's an empty house. And he's like, would you like to work on the gardens? He said, you can plant whatever you want. If the house sells, I'll pay you for what's in the garden. But if not, you just can keep whatever the harvest is. And we thought, yeah, this will be great. And it was only a couple of blocks away, but it wasn't like I went to the house every day. And we went in and we planted beans and we planted carrots. We planted potatoes. I can't remember what all we planted in these gardens. And we did pretty good. And we started weeding them. But, I got nothing. There wasn't a single carrot come up in that ground. I don't know what we did wrong, but it was an absolute miserable failure, like to the point where we just stopped looking after them after a while because we just couldn't get anything to grow. And this is coming from somebody who had quite a bit of luck vegetable gardening over the years. And these were raised beds. I don't know if it was in the soil or what it was, but our heart just wasn't in it. And I always have these plans because I have all these empty bank properties that are just sitting there empty. And I'm like, you know what? I really should do some guerrilla gardening and go over and just use up some of the land. If the house sells, well, whatever. I lost a few vegetables that I put in the ground, but if it doesn't, I get all this land to grow. So when I was finally afforded the opportunity without having to do it clandestinely, we did it and we just kind of half-assed it. We bought some seeds, we planted some seeds, we looked after them never really watered them like we should have. That's probably where part of the problem come in. And we just failed at it because our heart wasn't into it. And sometimes, for whatever reason, you're going to try a project. You're going to be like, okay, here it is. I'm going to grow the best damn watermelon ever. And you show up and you get one that's like the size of a softball and you're happy as can be. And then other times, your heart just isn't in it. You try to grow the best damn watermelon you can, or at least that's your plans when you first start. You get everything in the ground, you're all excited, and then boom, you just lose interest, or you don't know what to do and you're too stubborn to ask somebody. Anyway, so that was our fail on gardening a couple of summers ago. We're going to go gardening again this year. We're going big time again, but we needed a break. It'd been a few years. I don't know. I don't even know why our heart wasn't into it, but it was a miserable failure. So I hope you guys don't look at me completely different after this episode, but there's going to be 5 in here. And it's all things that I did and didn't finish, or finished and wasn't happy with the result. So here's number 3. And this was one I didn't even really want to share, but I'm going to, because this is something everybody struggles with. Keto and weight gain. or weight loss. And let's just tell the story. I was so excited when I'd finally got down 110 pounds and I was able to post it on social media. I felt great. Keto worked great for me and I had a lot of success. And then I fell off the keto bandwagon. For about 4 months, I went right back to my old habits. So this was, I don't know, let's go back maybe September of last year, and just absolutely went miserable again. I was not eating well. And I put 50 pounds back on out of the 110. And I felt like a failure. And you know what? Why wouldn't I? So why was I so excited to put that I'd lost 110 pounds on the internet, but I didn't want to put on there that I'd gained 50 back, right? Because we're scared of people judging. But the problem I get thinking is I don't want people to be discouraged because the first time they fall off the wagon, they're thinking, oh my God, well, Tim did it, but I can't. So I give up, right? The key is to keep on keeping on. And I hopped back on the keto wagon then for 2 weeks, and then I fell back off. And then I hopped back on for 2 weeks, and then I fell back off. And now I've been back on for quite a while, and I'm very happy. And right now, from where I started 2 years ago, I'm down 80 pounds. So I'm up about 30 from my lowest, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to keep working on it. And let's back up about a year. So about a year into keto, I was doing really well. And I went into the doctor and I was so proud because he's like, hey, we're going to take you off some blood pressure pills. I thought, oh, okay, let's try it. Not a problem. And I put it online and I bragged about it. And you know what? That was a miserable friggin' failure. As soon as he took me off some of my blood pressure pills, blood pressure went back up. And I was like, I honestly felt like a failure because there we are. You've done everything right, Tim. You've eaten keto, you've lost weight, but I just needed blood pressure pills. Maybe I need to lose a little more weight. Who knows? Either way, it didn't work. And they had to put my blood pressure pills back up. And I felt miserable about it. It was a failure. It wasn't a failure, but that's how I felt, right? So that's 3. So if you're struggling with weight or you're struggling with, I got to be completely natural because, well, if the shit hits the fan, I won't be able to get blood pressure pills. Well, you know what? First off, I got a year's worth of blood pressure pills on hand. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But don't think that kind of stuff. It's okay. The beauty of a diet is, and that's why I set goals and not resolutions, because a resolution, you break it and you move on. A goal is just something to strive toward. And sometimes you have setbacks. Sometimes you fall off the keto bandwagon for 4 months. And then sometimes you get right back on and you feel, all I can tell you is I feel better, have more energy, feel younger, and I'm just all around healthier when I'm eating keto. And I'm not saying that keto is the only way. Again, right? If you want to do a vegan lifestyle, if you want to eat the Mediterranean diet, whatever it happens to be, whatever works for you. But my wife and I have found that keto's worked for us. And yeah, I've had some failures along the way, and that's okay because I'm going to keep on keeping on. And you guys can ask me. I don't mind. I will share anything you want about keto. It's been great for us. But I felt pretty shitty there for a while when I fell off the wagon and wasn't eating well. And I thought, well, there it is. So remember, it's okay. I've been there too. Number 4, here's one for you. How to start a handyman book. Do you know that I have 36,000 word manuscript on how to start a handyman book? And I was really excited. And I started writing that about 2 years ago. And I went like gangbusters working on it every single morning. And I thought, this is it. This is going to be my magnum opus. No, it's going to be a great piece of literature that I'm going to be able to sell and make money at. And you know what? I haven't touched it since last May. I got to that point and I lost all passion for that book. And I'm not even sure why, but I just know that at the time, it wasn't the book that I wanted to write. And I put a lot of work into that. Even to the point where, my wife was like, well, how come you're not working on your book anymore? Right. And I thought, well, so now I have a vision for a new book that I'm working on, my preparedness manuals, and it's coming together great. And I'm excited about it. But this handyman book is just going to be one of those trunk books. It sits off in a steamer trunk somewhere, electronically, metaphorically speaking. And I just couldn't get through it anymore. So if you've been there, and I'm not saying use whatever I'm telling you as an excuse. I'm just telling you like, hey, look, Tim doesn't have his shit all together all the time. And it's okay to look at what I've done. And, you know, I've had some really great accomplishments, but I thought, you know what? It's time to share the opposite of accomplishments. Some of the things that I strive toward and I didn't get to. So this, how to start a handyman business, you know, there's some really great content in there. And I may go back and revisit it in 2 or 3 years, put it together. I don't know. But for the time being, it's on the list of failures because I got to that point and I moved on. And I'm not even 100% sure why. But if you've ever got to a point in a creative endeavor like that where you're not getting joy from it anymore, it's okay. You can move on or keep working, whatever you feel like you need. But I just really felt like I needed to share these 5 because not whenever, but I've been interviewed a bunch of times on being successful as an entrepreneur. And everybody always asks, well, what would you consider your biggest failure? And the problem is that as an entrepreneur, you tend to only be focusing on your next success or your next idea or your next passion. And I try to, I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but I just basically move on from my failures, block them out. And then when I was talking to this guy the other day about, you know, he almost felt like he had a need to start a business, even though I don't know if his heart was in it, whatever it was, doesn't matter. I thought, you know what? All of a sudden, these 4 or 5 situations come flooding back and I wrote them all down. I got them on a list right away because I'm like, I got to share them with you guys. So here's the next one. And this is a tough one. And this was one I didn't really want to share. And that's homeschooling. Okay. So 2 years ago, we took the plunge. And as a good anarchist, we pulled our kids out of government school. And we said, hey, that's it. You're not going to be raised by the man anymore. And they stayed home. And for a few months, they flourished. And they were enjoying it. And then my wife started a business. And I got lazy with the teaching a bit. And the girls just weren't real happy at it at that point. And so this year, the school year was coming up, and they made it abundantly clear that they wanted to go back to school. They missed their friends. And please don't send me any comments on why that was wrong. Okay. I'm just sharing with you on our journey and how it didn't fit our lifestyle and didn't work out for us. So, and I think a portion of that decision was probably myself thinking, hey, you know what? In the agorist, anarchist, freedom-minded communities, the thing to do is to homeschool your kids. And yeah, in an ideal world, I would probably still say that is absolutely the thing to do. But you know what? It didn't work for us. It just didn't. And for whatever reason, it didn't. And that's okay. And I want you guys to know that if there's something you're struggling with and you're like, God damn it, I just feel like I need to do this because everybody else is doing it. Well, number one, you don't. It's not high school anymore. And maybe it's just me, but you really don't. But if you want to try something, there's absolutely no shame in saying, guess what? It didn't work. So we're moving on from it and keep going. So that's kind of how, the girls loved homeschooling. We love doing homeschooling. I don't know. It just didn't work for us. And I'm okay with that. It took me a while to come to grips with it, but I'm okay with it. My girls are happier this year. And like I said, in an ideal world, yes, I would do absolutely everything I could, but it just doesn't always work that way. So I hope, so what's the takeaway from this? Hey, John, sorry if you jumped in a little bit late, but so what's the takeaway from all this? First off, I didn't want this to be negative. What I wanted it to be was an honest, from the heart sharing of a few things I've tried and they just didn't work. And that's okay. Tim fails too. Everybody fails at times. We have things we do in our brain. We're like Clark W. Griswold. We're going to have the happiest Christmas since Danny. Yeah, anyway, you know the line. I'm not going to, hey, Chris, everybody's showing up now toward, so there's, and if you guys want to throw up anything while I'm talking here, anything that you've tried that just didn't work for you guys or any failures or anything like that, But like I said, I wanted to be as transparent as I possibly could to just share some of the things that just got mucked up, that didn't work. That so Chris Dixon, Chris, my buddy, my fellow Flatlander, says so many things fail for some and work for others. Not trying is the real failure. You miss 100% of the shots and all that. Thanks for sharing, Tim. Yes. And that is absolutely the case, right, Chris? And that's, I always joke, if you're an Office fan, there's what is it? Michael has the picture on the wall where he quotes Wayne Gretzky, but he makes it sound like it was his quote. And that's exactly it there. And that's how it goes, right, guys? First off, as the entrepreneurial mindset, or as any mindset, I kind of take that, throw it at the wall and see what sticks, right? And I let things ride for a while, and I let things, I let them go, and I get a feel for it. And if something sticks, I run with it. But then there's times when you don't even know why it didn't stick, but it just, you're like, oh, I could do this. I really could if I put more effort into it, but your heart's just not into it. And that's okay. And I want people, and that, this could go back to, let's slide back a little bit. So say you're new to preparedness, for instance, and you look at someone else and you're like, oh my God, I gotta have everything. So say you decided, you know what, in my entire life, I have never managed to save more than $50 in cash, let's say, right? And that might be good. But then say all of a sudden, realized, it would be really nice to have $200 on hand. So you scrimp and save and put $200 in an envelope in your drawer, and you're like, okay, I've got $200. I feel great. So where do I go from there? And then next week, you decide you want to go shopping, and you see a new tool or a new dress or a new outfit, whatever it happens to be, and you spend that $200. So we've all been there. I can promise you, I'm speaking from experience. It took us a long time to start building up that kind of stuff. So if you do it, first off, yeah, you might call it a failure. You might say, well, I failed, but you didn't. I mean, you did. We all screw up. We all do that, right? But whatever. So you move on, and you know what you do? You start taking $10 or $20 at each time you get paid, or whatever it happens to be. You slide that in an envelope, you put it away. Whatever you have to do, put it in a lockbox inside of an ice cream chest, inside of a block of ice. I don't care. Whatever you need to do so that you learn from it. What do I say? There's no shame in making a mistake, only from not learning from those mistakes. And that's kind of where this whole thing came in. There's a bunch of different things that you do. There's going to be some, they're going to be, stark raving mad successes that you're going to be so excited to tell the world about. And then there's going to be those things that just never launched the way you wanted them to. And there's not many people in this community circle, whatever. I shouldn't say not many, but there's not as many who are willing to share their failures as much as they are willing to share their successes. And so I just wanted to be real. That was where I was, that's kind of where I was coming at this week. And it's been on my mind all week. I know it's cliche or whatever, but I'm like, you know what? For whatever reason, I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there that need to hear this and need to understand that whatever, it's okay. If you fail, if it's something, if you tried to do that one thing that everybody's doing and you hated it and you didn't want to do it, don't do it. That's okay. Move on to the next thing. Or if you really do want to do something and you fell on your ass, well, you know what? If you get back up and keep going, you just might knock it out of the park. All right, guys, that's it for me this week. My Saturday episodes are usually quite a bit shorter. This was just a different one. We'll have something a little bit different next week for sure. We always do, right? You never know what I'm going to talk about. But this week we talked about failure and how we learn from it and how things can go so much better sometimes, right? So where do we go from here? Well, I'd love for you to drop by tomorrow night. We have the Sunday evening live stream. It's always an interview, or just about always an interview. And I got an awesome one. Dave Jones, the NBC guy. And I don't mean like a TV channel. I mean nuclear, biological, and chemical. He spent decades in military service dealing with those kind of threats. We had this interview booked for weeks ago, long before any of this other bullshit. And we're not really, I'm going to try to stay away from that. This channel, what do we say? The DIY mindset. And he's going to come on and he's going to talk about how to build a bomb shelter. And for me, it's an exercise in mental, it's just a mental exercise. I love learning that kind of stuff. I'd love to build one someday, I'm sure, but I want to pick his brain. If you guys have questions, bring them with you. If you have concerns, bring them with you. Dave is an absolute treasure trove of information. So come by tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, and we're going to be on YouTube, Float, and Odyssey. So bring your questions. I'm sure it's going to be a great episode. So that's it for me this week, guys. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.